Hello and welcome everyone to episode 165 of One Piece at a Time, the One Piece read-through podcast where we read and discuss 5 chapters of the One Piece manga each and every week. I'm your host, Derrick Bittner, and I'm joined by a wonderful co-host and freelance letterer, Brandon Bovia. How you doing, Brandon?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm, of course, Brandon Bovia, freelance manga letterer extraordinaire. I guess it's superstar. Whatever. Superstar extraordinaire. I haven't figured out my title yet. And I can't think of any other manga I work on because I worked on Beyblade all day today. So, as it goes. But in any case, we're back for more Dressrosa. And I think this is kind of our... things are picking up again, you know?
Yeah. Things are definitely getting meaty. Pace. It's not like the pace was bad the past few episodes, but it's like the last, 2 sets that we covered. But major things that we're going beyond fights, and I think that's the big thing here. And it's great to have, it's always cool to have a fight and you see what's going on, but the strength of Dressrosa has been its plot twists and turns and whatnot. And not that there's been anything too crazy in terms of plot development here, but events are pretty major.
Yeah.
I feel like we've reached certain things that I did not expect to reach already.
Yeah. There's a lot of really good, memorable moments, which I feel like Dressrosa is really good at. And it dawned on me just the kind of stark difference between maybe the first half, where it was just all of these kind of moving parts. We were getting crazy reveals. It felt like every week or every other week there was something where we went just oh my god. And then once the birdcage started, it was more kind of prototypical One Piece. This is about what you would expect for kind of the action sets and just kind of just getting from point A to point B. But this week really kind of felt like Oda's done with all of the all right, we were running around for a bit. No more. All right, we're done. We're done with that.
Yeah, we highlighted our gladiators. Now it's time to really get to it.
Yeah. So I'm ready to. There's some
fun stuff in here. So let's get to it. Let's not waste any more time. Let's do it with chapter 756, the 4th step, and what a wonderful little cover. Cover, whatever. 17th anniversary, got everybody getting dressed and looking good. How they prepare in front of the mirror, and
it's really
all
neat.
of them make sense. Nami picking out dress. Yep, that makes sense. Chopper being cute, getting having his milk, toweling off after his shower. Yep. Usopp accessorizing. That's what he's all about when he comes to the movies.
Oh, yeah. Frankie with his old hairstyle.
Yeah, I love the little cream there. Has the cola, has shaved. He's looking good. Sanji just looking dapper.
Yes.
Robin looks a lot like Viola with that shot.
She probably, because as soon as the next page is Oda's all right, which one am I drawing now?
For sure. Luffy just, he has his meat, and Zoro has his booze, his food, and now he's rushing out the door. So it's fun stuff.
It's amazing how quickly we get used to the status quo of things, of we haven't seen half the Straw Hats in a minute.
It's been a bit.
It's certainly not as bad as post Saboti and Amazon Lily, Impel Down, that sort of thing, where it was just Luffy for 150 chapters. But it did kind of dawn on me. I was like, oh right, we haven't checked back in yet with the Sunny.
We split the party relatively quickly, all things considered.
Yeah.
But again, Oda's really mastered the art of maximizing his characters, especially when there's so many other side characters. Good God.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, it is really funny to turn the pages oh, there's Robin putting on her makeup. Oh, hey, Robin. Oh, wait, that's Viola.
Yes, exactly.
But we get a little bit of a demonstration of how her powers work, where she's just sort of staring and she's focusing in on okay, where's here, because as she says, I've been here for so long and I've never once heard about the Tontatis Princess Mancheri being held. So it must be a place I haven't checked for in years.
Which is
so
smart.
Where could it be? And And Usopp's, of course, learning. He's like, wait, you can do that? It's like, oh, that's really impressive. Good thing Sanji doesn't have that. Because I didn't even think about that context until Usopp brought it up. I'm like, oh, God. Because I guess I thought it was more of a sense thing, not actually observe. It was more of a...
Yeah.
You can sense that this thing's going on, not that you can individually look. So,
yeah. I mean, I guess she did say that she can see, what was it, like 3,000 kilometers or whatever.
Yeah, basically from the distance.
Yeah.
As we estimated, the distance between New York and LA. So.
Yeah. That's insane.
a little ridiculous.
Still ridiculous, yeah.
But we have some characters reuniting as Kinemon and Kanjuro have arrived on their poor bird that just passes out as soon as it arrives.
I love, Usopp he's just like, what on earth is that thing? But I love, I got a good laugh out of this because I did not remember this at all. Where, Kinemon and Kanjuro arrive and it's kind of like, we saw there are a bunch of people trying to climb up here, basically. And it's like, oh, but, thankfully, like, Kanjuro's basically like, I drew some ladders and so that they're on their way up here. And Usopp's like, what do you think you're doing?
Why would you do that? Which, it makes sense to Kanjuro because he just helped a bunch of the citizens out of that pit. So why not draw more ladders? And... I love how the people are just like, dang, these ropes are hard to climb. It's because the art's so bad.
Yes, and I love that, Usopp's freaking out, so Kanjuro is just kind of basically like, the only amends at this point is ritual harakiri. Kinemon is like, stop, and then Usopp's like, no, kill yourself.
That's the great thing, is that when I first saw this, like, oh, great, another samurai was like, really prone to like, nope, I gotta commit ritual suicide, so let's do this. And it's like, great, that joke's here, but I do like it kind of being subverted by somebody's like, no, stop that, with somebody else like, no, do it. Like,
yeah. Usopp's like, you've single-handedly screwed us all over. So even in a funny little gag scene like this, I feel like the character balance is just right for this section.
Mm-hmm. And just as this little scene ends, Viola successfully spots Mancherry, who is... We've still not gotten a full view of her, like her princess outfit and all that. Yeah. But we haven't seen her face, which makes me wonder if there's going to be a joke there. I don't know. Yeah, I kind of don't know why he's hiding her, but yeah. But... as soon as she finds her, she gets in contact with the group that's hopping over to the steps, and tells Leo that, hey, we found her. She's in the palace in the small room behind the chapel. Do you remember it? It's like the punishment room. Yes, that's it. And they get to reminisce about Rebecca's mother, Scarlet, where they would visit the palace, play pranks, and they get punished by locking him up in that room, which is kind of just funny to think about.
It's really cute. You get the sense that the things were peaceful and that they were just allowed to hang out in the palace and roam around, and that they were just
what are we going to use dungeons for?
Times. Yeah, exactly, right. Like the punishment is so light.
Mm-hmm. And they're like it's very cute how Scarlet would bring them fruit so they could if they were hungry, and it's like, oh, we all loved her so very much. So now I remember where to go. So thank you for the info. So we'll make sure to rescue the princess. And be careful because that is the enemy's base. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes, because we don't really see much of it because things go and then take a bit of a turn because they're over the third step, and that's when they get spotted by Gladius. And unfortunately for them, Bartolomeo is kind of just daydreaming because he's like,
he's distracted, right? Because I guess he needs his hand, so I don't know if he could have blocked it, but like he certainly wasn't on the ball.
No, instead he gets exploited by the pop baller from Gladius, and the Yellow Cubs sort of get thrown off by all this, and Gladius is definitely coming to get them. But Robin, making sure that the others can get away, she's falling as well. She grabs hold of him with her powers. And it's like, Rebecca, get the key to the flower field. We'll be fine. As her and Bartolomeo fall. It's like, okay, we're splitting them up even further. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I think this was kind of like the. I mean, I guess when you think about it, they've been stuck in the air for the past few chapters. So like, of course, something was going to go wrong eventually.
True. It's also interesting because Rebecca is safest with the crew, and now she's completely separate from the crew.
Yes.
So does put a little bit of worry there, but either way, we go back to Usopp, and Viola relays to them as like, "Hey, I saw something through the smoke and dust on the third step that looked like toys. I've got a bad feeling about this." And that's when she spots it. Sugar's awake again, and he's like, Usopp's immediately like, "Oh no, my special facial Jack-in-the-Box attack should have knocked her out for 2 days. Well, she's back up." Crap.
Yeah. And as she lays it out, the other Straw Hats don't know about her power. So I love that kind of we're building up to the threat, like, oh god, she's back, but we turn the page, go to Sugar, and she's freaking out because one of like the Doflamingo goons just has he has a long nose and
unibrow, like a deep forehead, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah. And so the gag here is that she's so traumatized from Usopp that just long shaped things just scare her. Where he's gonna I brought you some sausages. He's just gonna why would you ever just die?
Yeah, I only snack on grapes. Are you stupid? Here, you turn into a head cracker doll. So go out and fight. And she's just like, I'm ashamed of the fact that that's happened to me. I'm going to turn the whole country back into toys, starting with that long nose and the rest of the Straw Hat crew. She's out for revenge. And we know how deadly she is. So
yeah, she's making a more determined face than I think I've ever seen from her. But I kind of understand it from sort of I don't know if I'd really call it not like a subtle joke or anything, but it's just the idea that somebody's hard work over the past 10 years just got
demolished. It's
erased in the blink of an eye, and so she's just I lost everything.
Oh, it's rough. But these headcracker dolls are wild because one, they just look intimidating. Two, they bite the head of of Cavendish's horse. Farul gets chomped on, and they said you can hear the head's crushed. He cracked its skull. It's literally a skull cracker. Good God.
Yeah.
This poor horse.
Actually horrifying. Yeah. They feel like zombies, really. Usopp, or not Usopp, Luffy gets, a good attack in with his jet pistol, but they just, they keep coming back up.
Yeah. He puts a hole right in him, and it doesn't matter. They just keep coming no matter how much you chop them up. And oh no, we're fighting a kind of an immortal enemy, which is definitely an issue and wouldn't be as much of an issue if, Law had his powers, but not much luck. Fortunately, it happens that Bartolomeo and Robin fall straight on top of him.
Well, Bartolomeo does. Robin is seen flying in the background.
Which is great.
Yeah.
But, they're here now, and the going to report, but of course Gladius is like, "Oh, you let Rebecca escape, but she can't do anything even if she gets to the palace, so I'm going to eliminate her, and I'm going to finish off the rest of you first." And that's when Robin and Bartolomeo step is like, "No, you guys keep going, we're going to hold this guy off." Because that's where the key is.
The Robin Bartolomeo team up.
That's pretty great. I mean, honestly, if I had to team up with a Straw Hat, that's who I'd pick.
Hey, yeah, he's living the dream.
Seriously. But it's not quite the end of the chapter yet, because we go to the flower field on the fourth step, and they've successfully made it there. They're going to split up because the Tatatas are going to go rescue Mancheri. She's going to try to meet up with Luffy so they can give the key to help out Law. And everything seems to be okay until somebody wakes up from the flowers and it's revealed to be Diamante. And I got to say that panel of her staring at him through the flowers, that's a good panel.
It's beautiful and haunting at the same time, because right?
Yeah. It's, you want to talk about trauma. Good God. And it feels very classic fantasy, especially with her getup. Like you got the cape, her cape flowing. You got the sword
Yeah.
at her back. It's very classic in that way. So.
Yeah, from the back you kind of forget that she's wearing a loincloth.
Yeah, exactly.
So it just kind of looks like a cool panel.
For sure. But yeah, that's the chapter. It's moving pieces along once again, but in an entertaining way. It's very much a continuation of what we've seen before. But I like how we're mixing and matching that. Yeah, we got separated from Rebecca, but now Bartolomeo and Robin are with Luffy's group, and they're kind of helping them move on to this next stage and so forth. So we still don't have a final say on who's fighting who. It's very much like Enies Lobby, where things like you think this is the matchup that's going to happen, but no, we're going to shift and it's going to be this matchup instead.
Yeah. The more I think about it, the more that feels very typical Oda. Like, I feel like when I sit down and think about it, I feel like it does, until the characters are fighting who they're going to fight, like, it does kind of, it does end up feeling rather fluid.
Mm-hmm, for sure. We do have an SBS, which the first one made me laugh, because there was like, Oda, your love of large boobs is so well documented it's basically just a disease, but a woman's charms is not limited to just her breasts, and I've long awaited the entrance of a flat-chested character, so thank God for Dellinger, who has the most gorgeous legs in the Doflamingo family. And it's like, sorry, that's a man. He was picked up by the family as a baby, and Giola did the work of taking care of him, but she basically raised him like a girl because, well, that's her style. Which is just funny.
He seems into it, so you know what? All's well that ends well.
I love the idea of like, man, check out her legs. That's a dude's. Man, check out his legs.
Yeah. He's still beautiful.
Yes. The other one is just about transponder snails. The fact that they're like, there's cam snails that can take pictures and pull them off, and the fact that these snails are so convenient for having a little bit of modern tech in one piece.
They really, really are. And it goes to show that we commented, like, we were more, with the scene with Koala, we were more like, man, she's doing, like, espionage stuff that's cool. Like, not even blinking an eye at the fact, like, oh, there's a transponder snail that can take pictures. Like, yeah, you know what?
Yeah, it's just fine. Par for course at this point.
Yeah.
That just makes sense. But let's go ahead and move on to chapter 757, Trump Card. And hey, we're back with Jinbei's adventures, because last time we had a whole town disappear. And it's like, what's up with that? Well, not really any real clue, just that the officer's house is miraculously found. So the mystery is just getting deeper. So they're like,
it's found, but it's sideways.
It's sideways and seems to be slightly cut off. So it's like a whole portion just got vaporized, like suctioned away.
We found a floor of the house.
Yeah. So I gotta say, I actually am intrigued by this mystery. Not that it gets elaborated on in this set.
I have no idea where this is going.
No, not a clue. But Detective Jinbei on the case, apparently. Mm-hmm. But into the chapter itself, we're still in the third step, and we got Bartolomeo versus Gladius, and man, I like that we're actually getting a visual representation of his barriers now.
Yes.
So you can see the thickness of it.
Oh, yeah, because they were kind of invisible before.
Yeah, we could never see it before. And
I didn't think about that.
It's a nice big one that all the explosions happening. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and like I feel like this is a further just like Bartolomeo secretly has a really good devil fruit.
He really does. I have to assume he's can allow the barriers to be somewhat visible, because he makes a set of stairs for Luffy to just immediately run up to the fourth step. And I mean, I assume if you have to kind of see where you're going, if you're going to climb up those, it's not just visual for the audience, it's visual for Luffy as well. So now he's able to see how he's going. So him and Law can run up there and meet up with Rebecca to actually get the key back.
Yeah, I love that Luffy thanks him, and he's just Bartolomeo's on his knees. He's just, thank you for being born.
He still can't even look at Luffy.
Yeah, can't look at him in the face.
This fanboy has been so amazing this entire set. This entire arc.
Yeah.
again, I just think back to how he was introduced and just what he was like, and then this is his character. It's such a wonderful
it is
subversion.
the exact opposite of what you would think. We get another great bit of him too, but first they're trying to climb, but of course the toys get in their way. But Cavendish offers himself as the one to like I can't leave Ferrule behind, basically. Like, you guys go all on, I'll take care of him. But then it leads into this great gag where Gladius is aiming for Luffy and Law on the staircase, and Bartolomeo's basically, "Get down, Mr. President."
Yeah, I got this. It's essentially the meme from Simpsons where Apu jumps in front of Homer in the gun.
Yes, exactly. And then of course I do it is a gag with a great explanation too, because of course Cavendish is like, "What happened to your barrier?" But he spent up all, he could only deploy so much surface area at once, and he spent it all on making the stairs, which is a lot, actually.
Yeah, that's a pretty solid amount of force field that he can create. And he just says, "I'd be happy to die for Mr. Luffy's sake." And Cavendish is like, "All right, fine, I'm going to stay here and fight until you get your barrier back." And just as he's about to get eaten by a skullcracker, which is terrifying, here comes Robin with the Cinco Mano spank and just like kicks this thing aside, which, God, Robin needs more fights.
She really does. I kind of... Is this her fight? I kind of...
I don't know. Here's the thing I've kind of forgot about is that Robin hasn't really gotten a fight. Not since Skypiea. And that was a minor fight against a minor dude.
Yeah.
Just a big dude that he had to roll around, which... Oda, come on, please. You're giving Nami more fights than Robin. She's great for support and finishing things off, but I think extended fights is where he kind of struggles to figure out how to maybe utilize Robin.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. But we do get a good speech from her where, she's, in response to Bartolomeo wanting to die for Luffy's sake, is like, "No, I understand how you feel, Rooster. Our captain is worth the risk of our lives." And God, to have her say that after everything she went through. Yeah. That's good. In every situation, Luffy is the trump card that leads us to victory. And we get to see all these fights between the gladiators and the Doflamingo's crew, and seeing how, I love how the old men team went against each other with Tangent Zhao and Lao Ji.
The one that broke me is on the next page, is the first panel where we cut back to Frankie versus Senior Pink, and they're both doing like pirouettes, like they're like upside down doing like...
At first I thought Frankie was being, power bombed again, but no, they're kind of doing synchronized swimming against each other.
Synchronized swimming, yeah.
Even though Frankie can't go underwater, but all the ladies are still cheering for them.
Right,
like,
you're just kind of like, what the heck is happening here?
I love this fight so much. It is so stupid in the best ways.
Absolutely.
But I really hope what we get here is Robin getting to lead the charge against Gladius. I hope that's what the fight that we're getting here, because we don't see any more of it after this bit. But she just makes her giant hands and says, "You won't lay a hand on Luffy," and Bartolomeo going, "Hell yeah."
Yeah. And I guess when you think about it, and I'm saying this because I do not remember how this shakes out at all, but when you think about with Robin and Bartolomeo, and Robin's been showing it here, like, her power is much more it's better suited for like being the vanguard, being kind of the aggressor here, with Bartolomeo's barriers as the backup.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know if that's how it's going to play out, but like that's what makes sense to me.
We also have Cavendish, and we'll see. Who knows if he'll fall asleep or something. Like, I feel like that has to make a return at some point.
Absolutely.
You don't just pull something like that out once for the tournament.
Absolutely.
So,
if anything, I feel like the tournament's purpose was to like, here's everybody's abilities for the back half of the arc.
It does feel like that at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. I'm pretty sure that's all we see of them for the rest of this set, because now we move over to the Fujitora versus Sabo fight, and things are on fire. A lot of the towns in ruins, just been these two fighting. It's, they're basically... Sabo has been successful in keeping the Navy from going after Luffy. And I love this conversation. It's like, strange fella, ain't you? Isn't your aim here to stop the Navy? And so I was like, how long you gonna play dumb? It's like, oh, I figured you might spare some sympathy for a poor old blind man. So I was like, I don't discriminate. And yeah, it's get a very interesting conversation here.
This
it's
is
like,
weird. Like they kind of respect each other.
Yeah,
like, they kind of see each other as equals. They're like you kind of understand each other's positions.
Very
but,
much so.
They need to do what they need to do, which is why, Fujitora activates his gravity blade. And if you thought Dressrosa was already in kind of dire straits,
this is a cool shot.
It really
apparently it's not just vertically he can use his gravity, he can use it horizontally as well, and just smashes gravity across the side. Again, beautiful shot here. We can just see each of the buildings just have this pressure put on them. They kind of get squeezed at the bottom. Yeah. And just the wide scale effects, like, good God.
And it's really cool. Like Sabo turns into fire to go under it.
Yeah. It's cool the amount of control he has already.
Yeah, he's already getting used to it. Like you would have thought that maybe there would have been he had to get acclimated to it a little bit, but not really. Like he was kind of like, all right, I'm gonna use Fire Fist. I'm gonna break the arena in half. Pretty much from the start, and it's just been like him having to remember that he's fire.
We kind of got that sense that you kind of pick up on your abilities relatively quickly, at least if you're an adult, thanks to, once again, to Ines Lobby because of CP9's getting their abilities. And
that's true.
Caulifla really figuring out her bubble fruit or soap fruit, or I forget what it was, pretty quickly. I figured the giraffe power is a little easier to figure out. It's
a little self-explanatory. Although it felt like Kaku was stretching it a bit, just like, well, I'm a giraffe, so I'm going to turn into a cube, I guess.
I guess, yeah. Oh, gosh. But, it's, I like how, I think they're both thinking, what is he plotting as they clash? And Fujitora starts using gambling terms again. He's like, whether I roll snake eyes or boxcars, I'm fitting to wager my life here. And there ain't no point to the roll if you lose the dice beforehand.
Yeah. So, which, and even, kind of prompts that the question mark bubble from Sabo, presumably Sabo. We're just going to like, what's he talking about? What does he mean by that?
Fujitora is, I think, going to make a stand here. I think he's got some plans as we see a little bit.
Yeah, he's kind of a wild card. Surprisingly so.
Much more. Smoker was much more cut and dry with how he worked. Like, he worked with Luffy, but only because he saw what happened with, Crocodile, and having to survive. But he's still, it's, again, interesting parallels. But unfortunately, poor Rebecca is, just not faring well against Diamante, and she's trying to run from the fight, trying not to do it. There's a whole bunch of trauma there. Plus, her style of fighting does not work in this context.
It doesn't at all. No, it is like, oh man, I wish she could have stood up for herself. After all that she did, for her her training, and I feel like it would have been a really good way to extrapolate on her relationship with her dad, but it makes sense. I can't be too upset at it. This is, I mean, back in the arena, he was and is emphasizing it here again. He's like, I killed your mom.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where a lot of times we see a situation like this is like, oh, I wish the girl would actually be able to fight, but we've seen so much of her history and how she fights that, no, this makes perfect sense to me. Yes, she would run from the man who killed her mother, who is undefeated in the gladiator ring. There's just so much trauma there, and he's slashing at her from the back, and we've seen he has a devil fruit. This girl is not equipped to handle a devil fruit of that caliber.
She, unfortunately, in over her head, and I feel like I can understand that Oda illustrated that well enough. Again, based on her, her fighting style was, more about dodging and, more about specifically winning fights in the gladiator arena. But, here in the Field of Flowers, in an actual, quote unquote actual fight, it's just like, yeah. And, I'm unfortunately not immune to really, really cool moments. So of course, Here we have Diamante basically kind of like Diamante, or kind of like Doflamingo, who's just kind of like, I'll just use the Glock. Like, all right, let me just pull out the gun.
The same gun that it's the same way I killed your mother. So
yeah, and then
poetic.
It cries out for a soldier, and of course, you get that last minute save where Kiros comes in and slashes Diamante, and it's great. Stuff, it works every time.
Oh yeah, it does. This is brilliant. Just like him coming in and just going, "I won't let you take my family, not again." And just that,
and you understand where that's coming from.
And it's hard not to get emotional where she's looking at him. This is the legendary man, the greatest gladiator to ever fight in the Colosseum. The flashbacks to her with Soldier and how she grew up, and it's like realizing this is her father. And this apology from Kiros is like, I'm as a toy without a future, all I could teach you was battle. Even knowing that you were kind-hearted by nature, just like your mother. But today is the end of it. You don't need to fight anymore. And again, this is why I can buy that she's not made. She was forced into this. It's not love of battle or anything like this. This is not her. This is her. She's amazing despite the fact that that's how she is. And it's this if this fight doesn't happen, where it's just a locked in of Kiros versus Diamante, I'm going to be kind of pissed because this is the most thematically perfect fight in so far in this entire set. It's personal. It's gladiator versus gladiator.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that.
There's so many layers to it. It's yes. Give me this fight. We don't see any more of it after this, but these cool moments, admittedly. But man, do I want to see it.
Yeah, and of course, we have this emotional reunion, and meanwhile, Luffy's like, Rebecca, give me the key.
Luffy actually gets up as these skullcrackers are chasing them, and Diamante's like, "Oh, not you!" And sure enough, it's just enough time for Law to get free. He's all set, looking badass together with Luffy and Law next to each other.
Yeah.
And
oh man,
Kira's just going, "Hey, my apologies. I have my hands full with him. Can I leave Doflamingo up to you?" And just of course, like hell, yeah.
Our first of many in this set of just good hell yeah moments.
I love when we get hell yeah moments.
Yep.
We do have an SBS where somebody asked about why aren't there any women on Whitebeard's crew? Well, we did have the nurses, but Whitebeard just never really allowed any women fighters on his ship. So and he's old school, I guess. So
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
he's an old man.
Sure. Apparently there's a bit of drama that he ripped out all of his medical equipment and sent these girls away. They were all crying. So that's sweet.
And I feel like he didn't. It was a scene that he cut basically, but you could understand going into Marineford like. Yeah, this man was prepared to die. Relative to where we saw him first, hooked up to all these IVs to all of the destruction and mayhem he caused in the battle.
For sure. I think it's also funny. The other one is like, my family can't tell the difference between Zoro and Sanji. Can you distill it down to a format so iconic they can never get confused again? And it's very graphic designery. I don't know. It's like a Rorschach test. I don't know. Yeah, a bit. It's fun to like see how the eyes, like how they differentiate the eyes, differentiate the personalities, their eyebrows. They're not really their smiles. Their smiles aren't that different.
The smiles are the same thing.
Even their sense of direction.
That's what I don't understand is that the one for Zoro is like. Because both are pointing down, and Sanji is like on the ground, and Zoro is like.
Well, I think it's like go this way, and it's like think it top down, and he's like, and Zoro wanders off because he can't follow directions and can't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Top down makes more sense. I was thinking of it from the side. I was like,
at first that was my thought too, but then I realized that he wandered off. I'm like, oh, I see what Oda's demonstrating here.
That makes sense.
All right, next chapter, 758. Just keep going. And
oh man, I'm ready for this one.
we interrupt this mystery for a sinking ship for Jinbei.
Jinbei's just having a busy day.
Yeah, just everybody to save apparently. Who would have guessed? But
yeah,
I mean, I'm down. Jinbei's a good dude, so we'll take it. But we start the chapter. And again, I love these. Like, they're not huge spreads, they're just larger panels, and the use of the space in them. Just to see the wall broken down like that, to see the entire flower field, it looks great. It looks so fantasy in a way really that does. I can't really describe. Yeah,
I feel like now that we're seeing the flower field like up close, and just the raw detail that he's putting into like each individual flower, or at least like, you know, using shapes to imply that detail and to kind of, you know, just see it like fade into the distance, really does kind of sell the scale to it.
It really does.
And plus, there's this really heartwarming scene where, like, of course, we kind of joked before, like, oh, it's cute how that Rebecca still calls Luffy Lucy. And, you know, she's like, Lucy, are you really going to beat Doflamingo? And that's when, you know, he's finally like, it ain't Lucy, I'm Luffy, the man who will be king of the pirates. And that just, you know, that's nice.
I always love a good, I'm going to be the king of the pirates. So.
Yes.
And, you know, no need to worry anymore. And Diamante is like, oh, you conniving little, what makes you think I'll just let you get past me into the palace? And he's going to use this ripple fruit, but nope, Law's free. Time for room, Chambra, and he's gone.
We're out. We're out. Yeah.
Yep, he's already switched.
You know, they're inside the palace, and I like that Law is like, you know, the nice thing about being handcuffed is that I got to recover my stamina a bit. And then there's this interesting scene where he kind of operates on himself to like take out the bullets that Doflamingo shot him with.
Yeah, but I didn't even think about that the bullets would still be. You don't think about that so often in these things, but the bullets were still inside of him, and even like they crumbled a bit. So that's even like crazier. I do wonder about the significance here where he said he just had to use lead bullets, the bastard. I'm like,
yeah, as opposed to what?
Yeah, that was my thought. It's like, what else would you use? I mean, steel, iron, I guess, but
I mean, you should be glad that they're lead bullets and not like sea prism stone bullets or something.
Yeah, maybe it's lead because they crumble like that. They do more damage.
Oh,
is that
wait?
Or is it?
I think I know what that is.
Okay, because the other thought is it has something to do with his backstory.
I think it does. I think it does.
That'd be my guess, just because.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. It does.
Okay.
I think we'll find out.
That was where I was leaning towards first, but then I thought about maybe the cruelty of the lead breaking apart.
Yeah, no, it literally did not dawn on me until like right now, because that the line stood out to me as weird too while I was reading it. I was like, what did he mean by that? No, but we'll find out.
And then it is time for peak for this set.
Yes, sir.
Because it is genuinely terrifying that here we have Law and Luffy in the courtyard, and Sugar's been let known, and here's just the quiet little katak, 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 just that slow walk out there.
Yep.
And then you see her where she has this crazed look in her eyes. And it's like, oh, I'm going to fix all of this and make sure my work is on that. Again, you feel for it. Somebody that's like maybe just lost 10 years worth of work. But
yeah, imagine losing 10 years worth of like Pokemon or something.
Mm-hmm. And Law might know her power. It's hard to say, but Luffy certainly doesn't. And yeah, I love us doing that little switch to Usopp where
yes.
He's like, do you understand the severity of the situation? Just a few minutes ago, I got chills down my back when I realized that Robin had been a toy, meaning that I never even knew that I'd forgotten her. If Sugar touches him, we'll all forget about Luffy. And I can't stand the idea that our comrades could disappear and we'd never even know it. So we've got to stop her. And it's something we mentioned before about how he lost some things by not remembering Robin.
Yeah.
And this is so impressive where Kinnamon's like, you can't mean to snipe her from this distance. It is impossible. I can barely even glimpse it. Yeah. Just seeing the distance, their size, everything like that. This is so much grander of a shot than what we saw when he took down, what's his name in...
Spandam?
Spandam in his lobby. But no, this is Usopp manning up, and this I love when he does this,
dude. Because of course we had our mixed feelings, with the whole situation in the factory, right? Like underground, where it was like, okay, he didn't really quite connect there until the end. You know, he eventually came around, but it was sort of sad to see him in the moment to be like, oh man, you're kind of you know, fumbling the bag a little bit. But no, this is Usopp is like, no, like he is here trying to pull off the impossible, and is like, this is my moment. Like, we have to do something. They're not picking up the phone. The stay.
I also love that it could have been as simple as Usopp took down Sugar. But he did it accidentally. It makes for a fun gag, but he doesn't really get much of a fight otherwise. No, This is him getting to stand up on purpose, not just accidentally goofing his way to a victory. That's kind of early Usopp. This is new Usopp, where he gets to really stand out.
I'm glad that we got both, because I think the lucking into it is also in character, but like sort of, you know, chips are down. You're the only one who can do this, and it's kind of the complete opposite situation where it's just like, oh no, oh god, I don't want to be in the spotlight. I don't want to be the person who can only do this thing. But here we have, you know, Usopp literally in the background, you know, probably
backup is where I shine. I shoot down the enemy to surprise and protect my people. And
well, and if that wasn't enough, we have the citizens of Dressrosa slowly climbing their way up.
So they have to protect Usopp while he makes this impossible shot.
Yeah. And his only visual aid is Violet.
I love the teamwork between these two. Because we start seeing the people climb it. It's like, seize them all and hand them over to Doflamingo. And all the others have to hold them back without hurting them. And we can see Sugar approaching. And even Law doesn't seem to really get her. He has a question mark when he sees Sugar. So I don't think even he kind of gets her or what she's able to do. And Riku's just like, you know, no, we're not going to flee. Stop right here, my people. And, you know, Viola's concerned for him, and Usopp has to shout out, like, no, don't get distracted. Tell me exactly where in the courtyard she is. And just, I love the breakdown of this. Do you see windows? Yeah. I can see Straw Hat just through the window, just to the right of the center. There are bars on the window. How many bars? 1 vertical, 3 across. The bottom of the window is about 4 feet off the ground. Sugar's height is around the same. How big are the bottom panes? 20 inches wide, 16 inches tall. It's going to be close. Sugar is right in front of them in closing. And just, again, him adjusting his sights. That is...
It's so good. It's the most confident we've ever seen him.
Yeah. And it's... just seeing how he analyzes this is amazing. And I just him thinking, like, if I forget Luffy, I don't know what to do. I don't know what I do with myself. Obviously, I wouldn't remember, but I don't want to hit the seas without you. Who else is going to save this kingdom? So just you wait. You're not Sugar, and you're not going to get away with this. Super grown up, great black Kabuto, which I do love his oversized Kabuto for this whole thing.
Yes, exactly. And if that wasn't enough, this scene was already hype in and of itself, and then like the last little cherry on top, right before he fires, he starts to see their spirit, like their outlines of Luffy, Law, and Sugar.
And I didn't pick up on what this was until you mentioned something, and I'm like, oh my god.
Yes.
I thought it was just him. It somehow just completely went right over my head. But the fact that this is him awakening to observation hockey is so good.
It is. The thing that dawned on me is that because I think it was back in either Punk Hazard or Fishman Island, where they were like, okay, like, you know, who on your crew can use hockey? And it's like, okay, this is Luffy and Zoro and Sanji. And then Usopp is the first one out of the, like, outside of the objectively 3 most strongest crew members to awaken to hockey. And that it comes at this pivotal moment where where Usopp is the only one who can save Luffy in this moment. And it's so good. After everything that we've been through, like, to go again, I love the God Usopp gag. It's amazing. I love it. But like, this might be his shining
moment. Like, this might be his best moment to date in the manga. Like, to awaken like that, to have this impossible shot, to pull it all off, is so good. And it also, I like the idea of like how a sniper can utilize observation hockey for stuff like this, which puts into context his father, who probably can also use hockey, I mean, they talk about how Yasop can hit a fly from how many miles away or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, here's how he does it. You know.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, because in the context of observation hockey, we've mostly seen it, basically as like mantra, right? Or where it is kind of like okay, I can predict your next move, like like I can kind of feel it coming. We haven't really seen it applied in the context. Again, you have like a sniper or like like a far sight. So to see it used kind of for the first time in this way in the manga, and that it is Usopp kind of unlocking this like extra power it's so good.
It really is. And I love how this thing works, how he planned it out, where it's basically a rocket where it goes out first, then has a first booster where it's, it detaches and sends off. Then it has a second booster in order to make it that next bit further through the wall. And sure enough, makes it through it. And just as she's like reaching out to touch them, is like, we don't even know what the conversation is. Luffy's obviously about to get touched by her very soon. And then all of a sudden this thing opens up. It's he's like, I'm not going to hit her. I'm just going to reawaken her trauma. It's his face and freaking out again.
And as you can see, it's a Conjuro drawing, basically.
Yes, because it hits the opposite wall and becomes a drawing again. It's so good.
And it works. And I love that Usopp's like, Luffy, you don't even need to know. But as long as you're safe, just keep going. That is Usopp's role as support. Like, it's just,
it's that's perfect. Great. Oh my God. What an amazing moment. Yeah. And just to have Viola reacting, it's like, that was unbelievable.
He did it.
And yeah, he's on the ground and she's hugs it, I think hugs him, or he's on the ground because he's getting tied up, and he's like, it was a success. You defeated Sugar. Great job. And they're both fine. And everybody's like, oh my God, he did it.
Yeah, dude. Usopp made the shot, and then
and here's the part that shocked me most. They got there in time. It's not just they have a little bit further to go. It's like, no. After Sugar, they're at Doflamingo.
Yep. They're at the top of the top floor of the palace for the final battle, which, okay. All right,
sure.
And we just got Doflamingo sitting down, posing like a boss.
Bellamy's on the ground. Treble's remaining. Oh, gosh. Amazing chapter.
Amazing chapter, yeah.
But we do have an SBS where I don't think I ever realized this, where we never got what the warlords would be like, switched with their genders swapped.
Yeah, we got the we got the supernovas. That's what it was.
Yes.
Yeah. I love how much Hancock just looks like Shanks.
Yeah. Who's the most beautiful man? Shanks, apparently.
Yeah, I can get away with it because I'm so damn handsome. I love how Moria basically has the same face shape, more or less.
Yeah, just I oddly like it.
Yeah, it's extremely cursed, but
it is. Same with Blackbeard.
Yeah, it's like, what Blackbeard? I can't grow one.
I will say, Doflamingo's kind of reminds me of Android 18 to a slight degree.
Yeah, I can see it. I think I don't know if it's just because we were dealing with Doflamingo, but I think this one might be my favorite. Although Mihawk,
I don't know. Mihawk's up there.
Yeah, Mihawk's very much up there.
Mihawk's a bit like Alvida, but it's the hat works.
Very much so.
Although I will say Jinbei and Kuma might be even more cursed than Moria. Oh boy.
Oh dear.
But God, I love it. All right. Yep. Time for that next chapter, 759, Secret Plan. And hey, Jinbei saves the capsized ship, which is great. They're not like, screw you, Fishman. Thank you.
Oh yeah,
thank you.
This is just Jinbei doing good deeds.
Yeah, I'm down for this.
Sure, yeah, why not?
God, I still have no clue when he'll join.
I think I've said previously, however long you think it is, longer than that. You're gonna hit a point where you think it's soon, longer than that.
Oh my god, that's man, stringing people
it's
along.
A long game. Yeah, very much. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but with Rebecca's defeat, the skull crackers that the others are fighting dissipate and fall apart and turn back into humans. And it turns out that they were so large because she combined 8 people into one toy, which is
Jesus Christ,
nuts.
Yeah. Oh, I love this bit because Cavendish is like, having no consideration for the rank and file, and then you sort of get this conversation with the rank and file where they're like, oh, that was terrifying, I was afraid we'd be toys the rest of our lives, and then Gladius is like, of course not, when the battle was over you would have been returned to your proper bodies, and like, of course that's a relief. And then Gladius is like, I can't tell that we all forgot they existed, which is just like yikes.
gotta keep that trick going.
yeah.
But back to the confrontation with Doflamingo. And Bellamy is beat up and passed out, and Luffy's concerned for him. Is like,
dude, this whole scene broke my heart.
I know, right? Because we see him where he initially showed up, and it's like, the age of pirate pipe dreams is over, and Luffy just declares, I don't care about the past, just let him go. And Doflamingo goes like, no, that decision's for the victor to make. He came here for me to kill him. And Luffy's just thinking back to the conversations that he had with him. And this, of course, knowing how much Bellamy respected him, it's certainly going to piss off Luffy.
Yeah, and to Doflamingo, he just says, like, this was your way of settling the score. So in kind of a twisted way, it was like, really, they both kind of understood that, like, this was always what he was destined for. And, like, you get some interesting speech from Doflamingo that we'll come back to a little later, where he says there's no escaping the nature you're born with. And, he's holding up just beaten up and bloodied Bellamy, where he says, no matter where you'll go, you'll never be anything more than a thug.
Boy, is that cutting.
Yeah, and that even after all this, Luffy's like, no, Bellamy did change, that he believed in it. He believes in him still.
Yeah, and he's just like, just kill me. And that's enough for him to just snap and try to do his kick towards Doflamingo. Unfortunately, Doflamingo immediately lifts up Bellamy, and Luffy kicks him in the face instead.
Yeah.
So, oh no.
Yeah, and unfortunately, and we've seen this in action already, and Law kind of digging into Luffy a little bit here, just like he wants you to get angry, and just like you control your anger, basically. Like he's provoking you is exactly what he's good at, and like that's pretty much what he's been doing this whole arc, right?
Yeah.
And so of course, naturally, like the first thing that Doflamingo does when he's confronted, with Luffy and Law is like, how can I manipulate this to turn the tides back into me?
He can see, he reads people very well. He sees
exactly
how Luffy cares. And I'm like, I'm going to use this.
That's what makes him such a good villain, man.
Mm-hmm. It's so well done. And man, I love how as he's smiling, he's like, as it happens, I'm actually exceedingly angry. Just think about all the things you've done. You destroyed my sad on Punk Hazard. You attacked Virgo and Monet, abducted Caesar. In Dressrosa, you freed all the toys, and now your people are going after my Smile Factory. I've had enough. In fact, I'm so furious, all I can do is laugh. So, this is gonna be such an interesting fight.
Yeah, he's at his breaking point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, going on, hinting more of the past, it's as though all of the desperation of what happened 13 years ago is flooding back. And, Law told Luffy not to lose his cool. And, it's bringing up the past that gets Law to be like, if it wasn't for that incident, I never would have come back for revenge. And that, if it wasn't for that incident, you'd be right here as the third Corazon. And that's, where we, getting the fight starting. So clearly, there's still some more stuff under the surface here that they're working through.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's interesting. So I was under the impression that the person that Law looked up to and loved was named Corazon. Why is there a
yes,
third
that's right.
Corazon?
Oh, right. I had kind of taken that for granted. I'd forgotten that that hadn't been explained yet.
So that makes me wonder: is it actually his brother, or is it brother in terms of like, how Whitebeard described a family for his crew?
Yeah, that's also interesting because what we know and what will be next chapter, but like the way that Doflamingo's like, like I lost my mom and I killed my dad. That was back when the guys were making fun of Pika or whatever, and it's just gonna like don't talk smack about my family basically, or I'll literally kill you. So you do kind of get a little bit of an understanding of like his view toward familial relationships, and so I guess there's sort of the concept that it makes me wonder. Why don't because they said that it's like the heart seat, that they were leaving the heart seat open for Law. I guess it's interesting that they don't have titles really for the other playing card suits.
Yeah. I'm this is a backstory I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah. I think I know who the the one Corazon is, if Law's supposed to be the third, one of the Corazons is either the first or second. I think I know who the other one is.
Oh, okay.
I think that is part of the backstory. So, all in due time.
I suppose.
We'll get to the fireworks factory eventually.
Yeah, I know.
It'll be worth it.
In the meantime, he makes another body double, which his official name is called Black Knight. And that's what Law has to fight. So Luffy's going to try to take the real one, but that's when Bellamy starts attacking him. And, that, of course, has to be told that, no, he's being controlled. And the fact that Doflamingo is able to send out a body double, control that, and control Bellamy at the same time, and all the other people getting just attacking randomly downstairs.
And the birdcage.
Good God. Doflamingo. Just the amount of strings you can pull, which, again, fits his nature with all the hands and pies he has across the world.
It feels like it is. It's the kind of thing that it sounds overpowered because it is. But it is also just, I feel like, a really good thematic representation of both kind of behind the scenes and in the action. Like Doflamingo's just got his little hands everywhere. I kind of like that. Doflamingo just gets to sit back and enjoy the show. He's like, I'm sitting down. You guys fight for my amusement.
Oden usually does a pretty good job of having thematic because, crocodile being sand, electricity for God in Skypiea, as it were. Although I miss the thematic element of CP9.
With Lucci?
His name. Yeah, Don Lucci being a panther or tiger or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not really sure on that one myself.
The theme of that one seems a little lost on me. I guess it wasn't. That's not really the main point in this one. But to have it back here with Doflamingo is nice.
It makes a lot of sense, and I feel like all throughout this arc we've been learning more and more just to the depths of Doflamingo's string abilities, and it feels like out of all of the Paramecia types we've seen, he can just do anything basically. He has unlocked so many different uses of his devil fruit that it just feels like he can just do whatever he wants. And although meanwhile, sorry.
Before you move, I do want to hear that next bit. I do like that there is a limitation here shown. He can't control other people's devil fruits because he has Bellamy attack with a sword and not his spring fruit.
I didn't notice that. And that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. How would you control that with just strings?
Yeah. And I like that. There's just this whole tragedy to Luffy doesn't want to fight, right? And then he says, I can't, I can't fight him. He's my friend. And that's just, Bellamy's just crying out, confused, just why are you calling me your friend?
I know. Oh no! But we also get the repeat of Doflamingo's almost rule: the weak do not have the right to choose how they die.
Yeah, which I think Law said that to Shigi.
Yes.
In,
He did say that to Shiki. So
Yeah.
there's the origin. He learned it from
Doflamingo. Yeah, there's the connection there. Yeah. And of course, the idea that Luffy, like, we came all this way. Luffy's like, he won't even fight us directly. I'm sick of this. So he's like, I'm going to whoop up good. I'm good and mad. And so, apparently they came in. Law's like, that was our secret plan. I told you not to get worked up. And
Luffy's like, nope, I'm going to do it now.
Yep.
And Law's like, oh, you're going to pay for this. And he's like, because Luffy's charging at Law, getting ready to punch him with his, hockey covered fist. And Law's like, oh, he's forcing my hand. And that's when, of course, Law uses his room, switches himself for Doflamingo. So Doflamingo gets the Red Hawk punch, the thing that finished off Hody, straight into Doflamingo's gut. Finally getting a good punch on him.
Almost 60 chapters, and I feel like that is the first good solid hit we got on Doflamingo.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's a good hit, and you can see the damage, like the flames coming out the other side.
Yeah, he's
not the most satisfying one. It's not the face punch that always really satisfies. Like it's satisfying, but it could be more satisfying. Yeah, and I think that's kind of the point.
Yeah, and that was sort of like the way Law was like, that was our secret plan. Like that was sort of our ace in the hole. Pun not intended. The Red Hawk, but like it was too early, right? Like that was maybe something. Maybe wear him down a bit before we do that. But I also like that, since Law and since he switched places with Doflamingo, Law's in the chair now, and he's just, the way that he looks up at Trouble, just like sup, and actually hits him with his radio knife and actually does some good damage. So,
yeah, it's a fun
good combo
ending too.
Attack.
It's like, Straw Hat, you're the worst. Hey, you're in the same generation.
Oh man, good. Are they really gonna work together? You get the feeling. Maybe not.
Not for much longer after this. I think once Doflamingo's done, Law is done. Like I can imagine Law being like, never again. Oh goodness! But we do have another SBS, and just having like, hey, there's this guy from chapter 341 that was introduced as Happa in the SBS, but in the data book for One Piece Blue Deep, it says his name is Mr. Yamau. Explain. Oh, his name's Happa Yamau. Such
you made that
explanation. Yeah, of course. Oh gosh, but I also like it's really funny, especially nowadays. Like, hey, a lot of manga artists have their own Twitter accounts now. Why don't you, Oda? It's like, no, I stay. Never put myself directly on the internet, and I won't. I only release messages through Shueisha or Toei. The only thing I do is submit scribble doodles for the official OnePiece.com site because they said so. That's it. Which, respect.
Yeah. Oda never ended up making a Twitter account, which God bless him. He does. I think his staff eventually made one. Because I know that one thing that they do, which I always thought was really cool, is that like they started posting time lapses for Oda's illustrations for the volume covers. Because I forget when he started doing this, but he doesn't draw the final version digitally, but he uses digital tools to draft basically. So he'll sketch it out digitally and then do the completed version, pen and paper and markers and stuff. So amazing. I always thought that was a cool use of, like if he's not gonna be on social media himself, then it's a good alternative.
Good. Yeah.
I also while we're on the topic, I also really like how oh my god, I'm blanking on his name. Oh my god, Jesus, the Hunter x Hunter Yu Yu Hakusho manga artist.
Togashi.
Yeah. So what he does is that he literally, whenever like he starts drawing, because Hunter x Hunter takes long hiatuses. So like whenever he starts drawing new chapters, all he does is that he posts like the corner of pages, and those get like freaking like 200,000 likes a piece. Just
doesn't he only release like 5 chapters a year at this point just because of his poor health?
Yeah, it's something like that. There was I think we're on like a semi regular schedule of like a few chapters a year. at this
I
point.
would love to read Hunter x Hunter because a friend picked it up years ago, back when it started the English version started releasing the manga, and I was interested because I loved Yu Yu Hakusho, and I read the first like volume or two from him, and it was like, this is really fun stuff, especially how it just opens up immediately, almost with a tournament arc, very much like Genkai.
Yeah.
But then I started hearing about all the delays and stuff. I'm like, well, I'll just wait till it's over, and
Yeah. And
still waiting.
still going. Yeah. Although I have heard that the anime kind of adapts as much as they can to like end at a good enough spot.
I've heard that as well. I might. It's something I want to check out eventually, but I've held off so far. But
yeah, for sure.
I know there's some great stuff in there. Apparently some really interesting breakdowns of the main character as well, from what he seems at first to what he actually is, kind of like. So, yeah,
very much so.
But all right, let's go ahead and get to our final chapter for this set, 760, The Same Bet. And this is interesting where there's a newspaper that Jinbei finds with this wrecked ship that, hey, Luffy and Law made an alliance. So I was surprised.
Yeah, so that gives us a good ballpark of when this cover story is taking place.
Yeah, although I don't think the people around him are pointing at the paper. I think they're pointing at whatever attacked them or caused that village to disappear underwater.
Yeah.
What that might be?
Yeah. Who knows? Who knows where this is going?
I certainly don't, but hey, I'm just enjoying more Jinbei.
Yeah, for sure. I'll hang out with him.
Oh, yeah. But we get back to the story itself, and Sabo's getting yelled at by, oh gosh, I'm blanking on her name. Koala, which I like how... Okay, it says something to me that she can actually be angry like this. Like her having that angry face stretching out his face, and like that's that's
really
good
nice,
character
actually.
development. Yeah.
Right, yeah, because again, the first time we saw her, she was just kind of like, she was smiling through the pain. All she could do was just like have this like crooked smile, and everything was just like, I'm sorry, please don't hurt me. I'll scrub the floors, whatever, I'll make it right. And here she is. She's grown up into just something about like, you immediately understand their dynamic, the dynamic that she has with Sabo. It's just kind of like, you can't just go out and fight a naval admiral out of personal grudge. Like, you're trying to get the revolutionaries into a war, like, trying to play politics here. Sabo's like, my brother's in trouble, it's none of your business. And she's just like, yes, it is. But it actually ends kind of into this really interesting flashback.
Yeah. Before that, though, I do love the idea that she is the Nami to Sabo's Luffy.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Especially with how she's stretching his face. It's like, okay, this is
very much so
a perfect relationship.
I think she even has orange hair. I could be wrong about that.
I'm not sure on that one.
She might.
Either way.
Yeah, I'll check later.
Oh, gosh. But yeah, as you said, you have a flashback there. It's like, hey, we're actually birds of a feather. This is Fujitora, by the way. The Navy can't be the hero to this country. It ain't our place. And Sabo's just like, if anyone finds out what you're thinking, all they'll see is that I couldn't get past you. It really is a gamble then. Fujitora used the fight and having all his men get away to have an excuse that I couldn't get him. It's because he got in my way.
Dude, Fujitora, man, just every time he is just like, he understands the situation so perfectly that he's just... He sees, because what was that line a few chapters ago where he was like, does the world government see themselves as gods, or his understanding that like, no, it is our systems and it is our institutions that have like brought so much pain to this, and again we keep referring back to like Smoker and Tashigi back in Alabasta, where like they were the ones who kind of suffered at the hands of that cover up, and now here we have a literal admiral being like, no, this is wrong.
Yeah. I mean, Smoker was going to deny it at first, but then he decided to play into it so he could get the power to not have that happen anymore.
Yeah, play into the system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. But another little shift here is that the people get there, they're tying them all up, and then they're, just by talking to Riku, like being in Riku's presence, it's like, we've hated him for 10 years ever since that night. But realizing that, he was manipulated by Doflamingo, who he ended up praising the fact that we've actually looked at salvation through Doflamingo's game. We don't even know what we're doing anymore. What's happening to this country? So they're just, all the people end up, instead of capturing, just breaking down on their knees, being like, save us, King Riku. What should we do? We are so lost and confused. And boy, is it unrealistic. But so was this country having 700 years of peace or whatever it was.
No, dude.
So, you know what? I buy it.
I absolutely buy it. I love this. Like, it's almost like, the kind of pure fantasy to be like, oh, yeah, the kingdom is thrown completely into chaos, and all of the people immediately understand that they were being manipulated and are just like, we're sorry. We will do anything for you. But it, like, I think because... just based on my own lived experiences, living in the current year, it is just it's really heartwarming. I do love that, like, One Piece really does have this focus on kingdoms and people. Again, how much do we compare this to Alabasta? How much that, like, we see time and time again, like, like, there are so many, like, rich, corrupt, terrible people out there. But, like, seeing good people in positions of power, like, doing the right thing, like, to me, it never gets old. Like, to me, it's, you can call it cheesy or schmaltzy or whatever, but, like,
you know what?
Yeah.
I've seen a few people, say this, and I want to echo it as well. Mm-hmm. Embrace the cheese, embrace the cringe, embrace this stuff, because by being so 90s about it, it's like, oh, I'm disaffected about it. I don't care. It's like, no, your empathy dies by not embracing that sort of stuff. So to see this and be like, yeah, it's cheesy, but I love it because it's a wonderful fantasy. And that's, I think that's what a lot of people are hoping for from, very much off topic here, but very much hoping for from James Gunn's Superman movie.
Oh, yeah.
He seems to be doing that. And if I see it, like, yes, I want to see that movie just because I want to see him embrace cheese. I want to see a good man doing good things. Yeah. Please.
Yeah, we gotta. Which, when you think about it, is kind of amazing, right? Because I feel like you can kind of follow the arc of, like, our media in general, where you do kind of have a, like, very, very prototypical, very, like, very earnest, and then, that is around for so long that, it kind of gets viewed as played out. So the new in things to be edgy, it's to be disaffected, it's to be like, oh, I don't care about anything. It's just like, oh, like, and not to say that these are bad things, but it's, it's all like blood, gore, and violence. They can work, but yeah, there's a time. It's a balance of stuff. There's a time and place for cynicism, certainly, and a time and place for that kind of like disaffected, that sort of worldview. I don't say that's bad, but you do. I feel like with sort of what we've lived through, and the kind of, like, we've seen the arc of that be the popular thing and then fall out of style. My ultimate point is that, like, One Piece is just steadfastly consistent. And Oda's view of the world seemingly has never changed since day one, and it has always been about these, like, ultimately positive messages and themes of people being brought together.
It is, like, it felt weird to have, like, Luffy as Trump, like, the Trump card chapter in there. It just felt too early. It just felt like a little odd to have it at that moment for me, even though it's very much true. But the thing is, it does apply. There are jokes about it, but it is so true, and I love him for it. You become Luffy's friend, he will tear down whatever is in your way. You have any kind of corrupt thing holding you down, he will rip it apart, and that is inspiring and makes you love him.
There's a speech later on in this arc that I remember very succinctly that I'm going to really love digging into, because it's not that deep, but it's extremely simple and so character rich for Luffy, and just the idea. And sorry.
Oh, no, I was going to extrapolate from that, but just a bit there, because as we see with Doflamingo, as we get a little further, it's ultimate cynicism versus ultimate positivity.
Yes, exactly.
If you look at Doflamingo and Luffy.
No, dude, like, that's why I love, like, as opposites, right? Like as opposing forces. As again, we still don't know that much about his backstory, but like I kind of reflected on this chapter, kind of feeling like there's an alternate timeline where like Doflamingo's circumstances lead him to becoming a Straw Hat, right? Like he feels like he's kind of been primed for it, but just was at the wrong place at the wrong time, with the wrong people. And you can kind of see that like why, and we'll get to it, but that idea that like he's someone who's been rejected by the world, right? And instead of like tearing it down, it's Luffy just like, you know, intentionally or not, just like, you're my best friend, and you know, I will you know, tear down whatever corrupt systems are whatever corrupt system
to make you happy.
Yeah. So there's really good stuff here, and I feel like the notion of kingdoms, and again, you know, I don't know what to call it other than politics, right? Like just these like, and I guess that's what makes Oda's storytelling so satisfying to me, is that there is this level of like, I guess it's not like preachy, I guess is the best way to put it. It is. No,
it never feels preachy about it. It's just, there it is. And it's kind of like Luffy. There it is. You
make of it what you please.
Even though for me it seems to lean a certain way, which is how Luffy also very much goes in a very certain way. So fitting. But I love this, that I was like, you know, they're like, hey, if you command us to fight, we'll take up our weapons. And, you know, this is a peaceful country. And I love how, because it is a peaceful country, Riku's answer is, let's wait and see. And they're like, what? And, you know, it's always possible to brace yourself for death later, if need be. And, you know, Fujitora is like, hey, Dressrosa once stood as a symbol of peace. I'm not going to let it fall into war. And he just says, I'm laying a straight bet on straw. As it happens, King Riku, you and I are betting the same line, which I love how I think that interaction that they first had where when Luffy first met Fujitora and told him about the result of the bet really did set the forth. Like, no, this is what that man is like. That and he did. It's a complete
changeover from, you know, when Fujitora, you know, he came in to talk to Doflamingo and was like, you know, seemingly taking Doflamingo's side because, you know, systematically, like, we're talking about a pirate versus a warlord of the sea. So like, you know, as a government man, he's going to side with the warlord, just to see. But is now Fujitora got like a front row view, basically, you know, because Fujitora was apprehensive. He was like, Straw Hat is going to cause a bunch of chaos, and that's going to hurt a bunch of the common folk. But the common folk have been hurt by Doflamingo. So you are now seeing, like, he is taking a view of this, like an objective view of the situation, which I feel like is really what Fujitora is all about. You know, despite being a blind man, he is kind of cutting through it all, and is just seeing the situation for what it is. And King Riku too, where, you know, initially he was like, we're like, they're pirates, like, why would we side with them? You know, like, pirates took over and ruined this country. But he's seeing firsthand, you know, the people who believe in Luffy, and, you know, it's basically like, this is the best we got, this is our only hope.
Yep, we'll see how it goes. Speaking of, let's actually get to that fight with Luffy and Law. And Luffy's like, how'd you like that? And that's when Law's like, yeah, that wasn't a knockout blow. Now the trick won't work again. So we're on tested waters here. But I also love that it would seem that Trouble is like the perfect counter acting Devil Fruit to Law, because, you know, he can cut him apart and then place them pieces. But Trouble's like his little goop, so he can just goop himself back together easily, no matter what. But apparently, with his radio knife, it's not an ordinary amputation. So, you know, for the next few minutes, he'll have no tricks or powers. Which that's a really good thought. There.
Again, just Law's Devil Fruit is so busted, and seemingly they knew that, which is kind of an interesting little bit that it sounds like Doflamingo's crew had their eye on the op fruit from the very start, which makes you wonder why Law has it.
Yeah, I don't know. But the other funny thing is, or interesting thing is that Law's getting ready to do like some sort of injection and basically finish off Trouble, and Doflamingo stops him, kicks him out of the way, and then just stabs him through with a bunch of string.
Yeah, and I like the idea because it's like Trouble kind of like sticks him in place so that he can't move. So it's in an interesting way that like Doflamingo and Trouble are actually way more like they're way more prepared for this 2v2 than Luffy and Law.
And I like the idea that it is a 2v2 right now. I don't think it'll stay that way for long, but it's a fun idea to have a 2v2 at this point. Well, technically 3v2 because unfortunately we still got Bellamy causing issues.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Luffy gets bound by string and has his hands tied behind the back, and that gives Doflamingo the opportunity to monologue a little bit, where it's like,
oh, I feel like this was a long time coming.
My least favorite thing in the world is being looked down upon. The fact that you miserable brats thought for even an instant that you could actually beat me is the highest disgrace. Understand this, I am the noblest blood in the world, a celestial dragon. I possess the rarest of powers, nobility by birth. And here's our backstory for why he's like this. Yes. However, one day my father decided that our family of 4 should give up the greatest power there is and come live in this cesspool of a world. Live like a human. Indeed, what a stupid man. And you can see young Doflamingo's like, hey, father, where's our slaves? Let's go buy some. It's like, no, why aren't they prostrating before me? Why are we being chased? And the people, like, because they... Ostensibly, it seems like Doflamingo's father decided, I don't want to live lord myself above any other person anymore. He didn't act like a celestial dragon, which lowered their station, and then allowed people who saw them as celestial dragons be like, well, we're going to take out our aggressions on you.
Oh, yeah. It's just like one little panel where they're just like, it's a celestial dragon family. Don't kill them yet. Let them suffer long and hard. And like, I feel like that is interesting because the only other time we've really seen like what the average person views of like a celestial dragon is like back in Sabaody, right? It's like fear. It's don't mess with these guys. It's, you know, do everything they say, prostrate before them. But the sort of the implication that like, no, there is like this built up hatred. And kind of like, I love the idea that there's kind of this naivete that Doflamingo's father had of like, we can just go live among the people and it'll be fine. You know, let's live like humans and, you know, not even considering that like, yeah, the average person hates you and hates everything that you represent.
But still good on his father for attempting this, especially after the history. But yeah. So you can see why Doflamingo is this way. And as he states, I killed my father and took his head back to Marijoa, but the celestial dragons would not take back anyone from the line of traitors. There was no escape, and that's when I swore that I would destroy everything they hold dear about the world they control. The lives you've led cannot compare to what I've been through. I don't have time to waste with you miserable brats. And when I saw that this was the end of the chapter at only 13 pages, I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah,
no.
It's a short one, and we want more. You want more.
Yeah,
you get the idea, like, dude, Doflamingo's breaking. Like he is. You get
the stress is building.
The stress is absolutely building. But I think as far as the like backstory goes, I'm pretty sure this is in broad strokes. Like this is kind of it. Like the idea. I think the thing that we had been holding on to all this time was like Doflamingo is a celestial dragon, but why all this other stuff? And I think there's a little more that will extrapolate on the details. But yeah, is sort of the idea.
He was able to get connections because of his status. But he couldn't become a celestial dragon again, so he just becomes a pirate, and that's why he has such a cynical view of the world.
Yeah,
which is funny because he'd always have a cynical view of the world. Where again, he's like, "Where are the slaves? I want my slaves."
Right? Yeah. He would be terrible no matter what.
Yeah,
but at least he'd be terrible in Marijoa with a bunch of other terrible people. So Doflamingo's dad accidentally, you know, let a monster out of control. So there's, oh boy, there's God, there's so much to unpack there with that. Oh man, I had a train of thought there. I lost. Right. I was gonna say that there's just like the idea that Doflamingo, again, the way that he says like he had witnessed heaven and hell by the age of 10, and that like this really is like, again, alluding to the idea that like maybe in an alternate timeline, Doflamingo could have been a straw hat. That like there really is no place for him in this world. The average person hates him for being a celestial dragon, and the celestial dragons hate him because his dad is a traitor. So
like maybe, but he also, I don't think he has a dream, and that's his dream is the destruction, and that's.
Oh yeah. That's what puts him on the opposite side. But I like the idea that we are sort of seeing this like, again, like there's so many little consequences to the way the world works in One Piece and why, and that we're seeing how it has affected so many different people like across so many different generations. So yeah, man, I don't know. Doflamingo, best villain.
I love how we still had a ton to say about this chapter despite being 13 pages, because we got on this whole kick about just this whole the cynicism versus optimism.
Yeah. What can I tell you? One Piece is political.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Who knew? It's also symbolic, as we see in the SBS, because this is Oda trying to be cheeky, but he is definitely foreshadowing some crap here. Because we got a long one here where it's like, so remember that question in volume 75 about the reason you use tiger and bull as the animals for the new naval admirals? Well, I've got an idea. We know that the original three of Akainu, Aokiji, and Kizaru mean red dog, blue pheasant, and yellow monkey, respectively. And in the fairy tale of Momotaro, the boy born from a peach befriends a dog, a pheasant, and a monkey, who join him on his travels as he seeks to vanquish the army of demonic Oni on the island of Onigashima. And how are Oni usually depicted? With tiger skin loincloths and bull horns. So here's my interpretation. The animals on Momotaro's side stand for law and order, and the Oni stand for pirates. Since we know that Fujitora wants to abolish the world government's 7 warlords of the sea system, it is possible that Ryokugyu and Fujitora, the 2 newest admirals, are both Navy men who bear some kind of rebellious streak against the powers that be, assuming that anti-government means pirates. What do you think? I'm on the right track? And then Oda just goes, oh, me panic? Why would I do that? That's silly. That's a whole lot of complex information that you just shared. And if anyone wants to read anything into that, they're certainly welcome to do so. I'm not saying if it's right or wrong. That's all. Sweat drop. I'm just saying this was a letter I received, and now you have to see it for yourselves.
Well, I think what I can say with certainty is that Oda is really good at using folklore and, kind of world, like stories as like a base, right? We're here in Dressrosa, that's like, Spain and Rome kind of smushed together. So I would say that this, like, and we've already seen it, right? That like the, even before getting to the obvious, like, yeah, of course, the tale of Momotaro, and we have one Momonosuke, there's a lot of iconography from that fairy tale in Fishman Island with Ryugu Palace and stuff like that. Is like that's all from the Momotaro legend. So there are aspects that like are kind of remixed, I guess is the best word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So this person is not like 100% on the money, but I really like it as an interpretation.
It's a fun interpretation, and it really feels like, just as the I forget, I'm blanking on the name of it, but the Journey to the West serves as the basis for Dragon Ball. This Momotaro story seems to be the basis for One Piece, at least in some aspects.
Yeah, so. It's definitely, as you could imagine, more for later.
yeah. Of course.
But there are certainly aspects that we've already seen plenty of. So,
but this is the stuff I love about Dressrosa, is that just gives us stuff to dig into.
Thank you for the food.
Yeah, that's all it comes down to. Like, I love my junk food where we get to just watch fights and all these other crazy stuff. But man, we get that little bit of just real meat, and boy, do we dig in.
if my premonition is correct and that we are getting like the Law backstory next week, I'm afraid that like the next episode's gonna be like 2 hours long or something.
Oh no!
Mind you, I remember very little of that flashback outside of the broad strokes, so I don't know if there's anything that's like, oh, real juicy, but like we'll certainly have stuff to talk about for sure. Like I can't imagine like every backstory is a banger.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we're definitely going to be starting to wind. After that backstory, it feels like we're going to start winding down on things. We're going to start focusing on other fights. We're going to get more of the Doflamingo fight and stuff like that.
God,
like
that's crazy.
I think we really are starting to pair off with how things are, and I'm curious how that's all going to lay out because we're running out of chapters. When you really think about it.
We are. That's crazy. Crazy to think that we're this far in Dressrosa, man. You're 60 chapters into new material, and it has just been hitting.
Yeah, I love how towards the beginning of Dressrosa, like, man, how did they extend this to 100 chapters? Oh, okay.
Got it. Yep.
There we go.
It says, now that it feels like now that we're over the hump, you kind of see like, okay, this is I feel like we have a good idea, not necessarily of how things will end, but kind of like
the base structure.
The structure for sure. Yeah. It had 50 chapters of like everything all over the place.
And that's why we love it. But with that, I believe we've said all we've wanted to say about chapters 756 to 760 of One Piece. Thank you so much for listening, and you can find more of my ramblings and stream VODs over at BitNerd Games on YouTube or simply BitNerd on BlueSky. Brandon, where can everyone find you at?
I am Brandon Bovia on Twitter and BlueSky, talking about anime, manga, games, and my job, and just working on more manga. We'll be, go follow me for all that fun stuff. I have nothing to plug.
Yeah, all good. And if you'd like to help us out more, you can support the podcast over at patreon.com/Derrick Bittner. That's DerrickBitner to listen to the next episode ad-free 3 days early, as well as patron-exclusive bonus episodes. And make sure to return next time as we discuss chapters 761 to 765 of One Piece. So until then, my friends, bye.
Remember to take life one piece at a time.
Its objective is to reignite trauma. Luffy, I got your back.